And now, an 8th special presentation.
This time on Art Beat Nation. A performance artist combines Japanese calligraphy with music.
I'm trying to create a unique space with black dots and lines.
Tapping into the artistic spirit in all of us.
Sculpting taught me about patience, and it also taught me a lot about life.
Visit one of the largest art collections in America.
He was extraordinarily aware of the light at all times, and his painting is infused with that perception.
And spirituality finds its expression in stained glass.
We want that spark of discussion, that discovery to happen.
It's all ahead on this edition of Art Beat Nation. Funding for Art Beat Nation is made possible by donations to Curate, the Arizona PBS Arts and Culture Fund, and by contributions to 8 from viewers like you. Thank you. First, we head to Lafayette, Colorado, where a Japanese calligrapher combines ancient art with music, transforming visual works into performance art. We sit down with one artist who shares what compels her to create.
Shodo, or Japanese calligraphy, came from China. I started to learn Shodo before entering elementary school in Japan. Kana, or Japanese outfits, are very beautiful.
って思って勉強していました。
Since I was small, I really liked to write letters and also creating something. Through Shodo, or Japanese calligraphy, I wanted to express my art. I'm trying to create a unique space with black dots and lines. Through today's performance, I wanted to share my art with audience and the music performers so that it's beyond Shodo or just practicing the letters, but just I wanted to show my art. When I perform, it's always with music. I get inspiration from music, but more like from the performers rather than just music itself. If it's improvisation, I don't think anything, so it's just improvise. If it's not the improvisational music, I think what I'm gonna do beforehand. Art is very important for the world because you see something, you feel something. It still moves you, so that's why it's important.
For more information about the exhibit, visit Setsui's website. Up next, Vegas, home of showgirls and casinos, also hosts creative professionals that span the spectrum of the visual and performing arts. Local sculptor Sharon Gainsbourg takes us to her studio to share her knowledge of crafts and insight into the artist in all of us.
My name is Sharon Gainsbourg. I'm a sculptor, teacher, and creativity coach. I have been sculpting now for 40 plus years. I have been in Las Vegas coming up on 9 years. This is a sculpture that I did recently. It was a very thin piece. This stone comes from southern Utah. Here we have a piece that is local, and this is called root beer or Nevada alabaster. I'm originally from Philadelphia, where I started sculpting in clay when I was 20. I stayed with clay for 10 years. Someone saw my clay work and said, "Oh, you have to take stone." And I bought a piece of stone and 3 hits on the stone, and that was it. It was a relationship that I formed with this material that's millions of years old instantaneously. This stone, also alabaster, comes from Sicily. This is called Eternal Light, and it's actually my most recent sculpture. To sculpt, you have to be very committed. It's almost like having a fire in your belly. And you also have to be very patient. Sculpting taught me about patience, and it also taught me a lot about life. Because when you're sculpting and a piece falls off that you weren't counting on and your design is ruined, you have to dig deeper to come up with a better design to incorporate the area that's missing. But that's what we have to do in life. Something happens, you have to take a detour. There are 5 basic steps in sculpting stone. First is blocking out your form. The second is refining it. The third is dry sanding it. The fourth is wet sanding. And the 5th step is putting some type of liquid sealer and buffing it. This is an automatic power-driven chisel. This is going to make a little bit of dust. My favorite step is the conceptualization of finding the forms to express what I want to say. The process is fluid when you just go with whatever your intuitive self is telling you to do. Well, if I had to put a label on the type of work that I do, I call it abstract realism. You can always find a realistic form somewhere buried in the abstract forms. And I like to do that because I want people to use their intuitive sense or an emotional connection to the work. Welcome to the studio where all the magic happens. These are my rock stars. I'm a teacher coming up on about 37 years. What I tell my students is, you come here 3 hours once a week, but while you're doing your job, or if you are retired, be more aware of being in the now. Just take a few minutes every day and look at your surroundings and tune in to what's around you. Look at color, smells, form, and you will start developing a language.
Did I have this shape in mind? No, it's an abstract. It was one solid, almost square piece. And what Sharon is teaching me is to continue to round it and get rid of the flat parts. And so as I work, I see.
I've enjoyed every moment of working on this piece. Even the painstaking parts of the sanding and things like that have really been a joy. So in the process, all your troubles melt away.
I believe that we are all creative, but most of the time the focus on one's life is providing an income, and we put creativity aside.
In every way, it is worth, I couldn't be paid enough to have the fulfillment and the joy that I have out of this. I just feel alive again. You know, there's something tapped that was inside of me, a passion of some sort that I just never realized until I started sculpting. I can barely tie a ribbon, I can barely tie a knot, but I can sure bang on a rock and create something.
To me, it's a spiritual thing because God chips at us to try to make us come out beautiful, and it's just too amazing for me.
There's a universal consciousness that stone has. And if I told students when they took the class, they would say, cuckoo, but they get it once they start working with it. When a person is dealing with frustrations in life, they're going through rough times, and we all have had it. Come here and take it out on the stone. Be kind to each other, but take it out on the stone. Beat the heck out of the stone. People need to get in touch with a piece of their soul that they never knew existed. When you believe in something and you stay with it, and you believe in yourself for so many years, the rewards are great. What I'd like people to know about me as an artist is that I've always lived my truth, and you see that in my work.
For more information, visit GainsbourgStudio.com. In this segment, we visit the largest American art collection owned by a private institution. In one of its premier exhibits, the Parrish Art Museum, located at the East End of Long Island, New York, celebrates the life and art of American Impressionist painter William Merritt Chase.
I'm Alicia Longwell. I'm the Louis B. and Dorothy Coleman Chief Curator of Art and Education here at the Parrish Art Museum. Our new Herzog and Dimmeron design building is located in Watermill, New York, a hamlet just to the east of Southampton Village on Long Island's East End. This is the first time that we've had dedicated space to show our permanent collection and to have a dedicated gallery to the work of William Merritt Chase. The Parrish collection is really notable for its range of work from all periods, especially from the Shinnecock paintings when he was here, and is the largest collection in a public institution in America. William Merritt Chase had a long and rich relationship to the East End of Long Island. You might even say that he staked his claim to this landscape early on, and that he saw more possibilities in it than the untutored eye. He once said that he could find pictorial gold in the dross of the Shinnecock Hills. It was in many ways a scrubby landscape, one that had been greatly overlooked by many other artists. He first came out to Eastern Long Island in 1881 to sketch en plein air. Chase adopted not so much what you might call the techniques of the French Impressionists, but certainly their ideas of coming out and painting modern life. In 1891, two civic-minded women in the Southampton area decided they'd like to start a plein air school of art. Chase was a very well-known teacher at the Art Students League. He was a renowned portrait painter, and he readily accepted their invitation to come out and in 1891 be the founding director of the Shinnecock Hills Summer School of Art. By the next summer, a house had been built for him, this beautiful Dutch colonial revival shingle style that's become very famous and ubiquitous here on the East End, and his whole family came out. He taught here till 1902, and then the family continued to use the house in Shinnecock really up to Chase's death in 1916. The William Merritt Chase Archives at the Parrish Art Museum is a repository of documents, letters, and most especially 600 photographs that really document the artist's life. Many of the photographs were, we know, taken by Mrs. Chase. She was an amateur photographer. They give an extraordinary glimpse into what you might call a Gilded Age summer, but really more importantly into Chase's life and work. These photographs particularly are extremely important because many of the same scenes that Chase depicted are visible in the photographs. Chase is indelibly associated with the paintings that he did here in the Shinnecock Hills. Our own painting, 1895, the Bayberry Bush, is really emblematic of these, and he really did find pictorial gold in this scrubby landscape. I think one of the most interesting things about that painting is, of course, the presence of the house that they lived in, the three daughters. It is a complete look at the artist and his life, I think, having the domestic realm, the landscape realm. There is perhaps no better entry into the creative life of William Merritt Chase than this painting we see here, Alice in the Shinnecock Studio from around 1900. Alice Judene Chase, his oldest daughter, was often depicted by Chase in his paintings. Alice is really a surrogate for the viewer, inviting us into the rarefied atmosphere of the artist's studio. While the nominal subject of the painting is the studio, the true theme is painting itself. Here we see so many objects that become a self-portrait for the artist. The Shinnecock painting on the easel, the luminous glow of the bric-a-brac that he collected, his upended paintbrushes, the sketch of Velázquez in the upper left, and the light coming through the studio window. It's a complex fusion of art with family, landscape, and the material world. I think Chase was very much a student, you might say, of the light here on the East End. He was extraordinarily aware of the light at all times, and his painting is infused with that perception. We would welcome your visit when you're out on the East End of Long Island to come to the museum in Watermill, New York, just to the east of Southampton Village.
Finally, we visit a family at their glass studio in St. Louis. For 5 generations, they have stayed connected to the history of their faith through art, creating stained glass pieces. They work with churches of all denominations with one mission: to awaken spirituality through the medieval art form of stained glass. Take a look.
I think a lot of people dismiss sacred art because they see it as restrictive. There are too many boundaries and rules that we have to follow. It's actually quite the opposite. I think a musician, once he understands music theory, it's only then that he's able to really improvise and have fun. It's the same as true as with stained glass sacred art, is that once you understand your theology, then you can have fun, then you can avoid repeating the same images over and over. You know, stained glass isn't simply angels or saints. It has the whole of God's plenitude at your disposal. I mean, we have an infinite source as our subject, and so you have quite a few options to play with.
My great-grandfather was trained in the Munich School of Fine Arts in Bavaria, Germany, and when he emigrated in the early 1890s to this country, settled in St. Louis eventually, and we've been here ever since. One thing our studio has always been known for is the depth of theology. Everybody who works here has been trained here. They all have their master's or bachelor's degrees in art or theology or architecture. We tend to try to embed many different layers of theology within our windows, some that are immediately obvious when you walk into a church. You see color and form, but we also want people to be able to study these windows and discover things that happen after they've been sitting in the church for a year or 2 or 3.
I am charged with meeting with committees of various churches and generating content for their sacred space. So I work with a committee to nail down what they want in terms of content in their building. My job is to make something beautiful, conceptually rigorous, so that it's not kitschy. It transcends that and becomes something that has a durable presence over the life of the building, even longer than that.
Everyone here does a number of things. My biggest responsibility is to cut the glass. So the artist will set forth a general scheme of colors, and I try and capture the spirit of that, realizing all the while that a color on paint or a color on paper and color on glass are two wildly different things.
The cutting of the glass affects the aesthetic outcome of the window, but even after I've painted on it, it has to be put together. That's hours and hours of work. So for this to be possible, you really have to divide the labor. So we have glazers and cementers and people who install the window. They all affect the outcome of that window.
So we have two real materials that we work with. The first is glass and just different interplay between colors and textures. The second material is actually immaterial, and that's light. The challenge is largely trying to determine what the lighting conditions will be. A north-facing window is different from an east-facing window. The seasonal sun also plays into that part too. And just knowing how each color reacts when it's lit up, next to an adjacent piece of glass.
We do it exactly the same way. It was done in the 12th, 13th, 14th centuries. Dad says a 15th century glazer could come to work for us today, and by tomorrow he'd be familiar with everything that we do.
People came to us and said, why don't you design your windows on a computer? There's CAD programs. Well, I've seen CAD programs, and they tend to look more like a cartoon, but the handcraft still has an organic feel, and it surprises people, and it is true. That's one of the things where we adhere to the old ways, is our art, our style, the way the windows look.
After the Middle Ages, society became literate, and at that point, our charge changed. And now, rather than being a picture book for the theology of stained glass, now our intent is to spark the discussion about our faith, so that as people start to inspect our windows, and we want these windows to be current for an 18-year-old or a 48-year-old or an 88-year-old, and we want it to be current, 100 years from now. So we want that spark of discussion, that discovery to happen, so that the people who do discover the theology within our windows, and usually we embed 2, 3, 4 different layers of theology, some to be discovered right away, some not to be discovered until, years later.
There seems to be quite a bit of demand for mosaics in sacred spaces currently. So we are designing mosaics, and we've done several large projects in recent years. So we use glass, but we also use stone mosaics, and we also handcraft tiles if the design calls for that. So it's, in a way, an opposite medium from our stained glass, because the stained glass is predicated on transmitted light, whereas the mosaic functions on reflected light. So they're opposite mediums, but they're both with glass or ceramics.
How often do you get a chance to work in something so beautiful, it's so permanent, and leave such a footprint in history, and work all over the world? So it seems like each generation has to choose it on their own. For 5 generations now, it looks like it's in really good hands.
To see more, check out their website. For more arts and culture, visit azpbs.org/artbeat, where you'll find feature videos and information on the Arizona art scene. Funding for Artbeat Nation is made possible by donations to Curate, the Arizona PBS Arts and Culture Fund, and by contributions to aid from viewers like you. Thank you.